Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, December 1st, 9 a.m. Eastern. We're doing our last open house live stream of the year to show a bit about how we do things as we've got our last couple days of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. On that note, we are going to be getting some data from Black Friday, Cyber Monday that is going to impact some names like Walmart, Amazon, etc. We'll look at those in just a moment. The headlines that are gaining attention over the last 14 hours since futures opened has to do with the Bank of Japan. And I'm going to dumb it down real quick to just tell you what the situation is. We've had this scenario before with the yen carry trade, but essentially lots of people borrow the yen when it's cheap. They then grab USD with it or other currencies. They then buy assets with that. And then when the yen strengthens, they then are potentially required to sell those assets and reconvert back to the yen before it gets too expensive to do so. Again, that's a very dumbed down version. If you're interested in more, sink an hour into reading about it. The things to search up are Bank of Japan, Japanese yields, and the yen carry trade. Personally, for me, the first thing I do is I look at the chart. Here's the NASDAQ futures chart that we're all looking at. And I say to myself, looking at this chart, would I think there is any news? And at this moment, the answer is no, absolutely not. We just went straight up off the low for a week, and we're seeing daily consolidation that we knew was inevitable. This is the narrative that is behind the daily consolidation. Could it turn into something more? Yes, absolutely. But for me personally, I always default to the charts as what's most important to me. And so, my superficial understanding of the narrative is enough for me at this point. And the last time the yen carry trade was a thing in terms of popularity and article headlines and fear, it was back here in August of 2025. And that definitely impacted things in the short term with the magnitude of and the speed of the sell-off, but technically speaking, daily oversold. This was a NASDAQ back burner on that big gap down day. Daily oversold, marked a monthly high or low, and we then went up from there. And so, again, the last time it came around, if I'm zoomed out and on the monthly time frame, would I know there was any news in August 2024? Or was it August 2024? No, I wouldn't at all. So that's where I stand on the matter. And what I care about are a number of things. Number one, what is the retracement of daily consolidation? Is it less than 50% and bulls confirm a daily uptrend to be talking about all-time highs? Is it more than 50% to then have the bears start to take back over and put those lows back in play? And what's going to help us gauge that is the response to hourly oversold conditions. We have not hit hourly oversold yet. It's not a back burner because we're not in a strong uptrending market right now. This is, range bound. But if hourly oversold marks a daily high or low, that's going to be a big sigh of relief for the bulls. So that's something I'm watching for as well. I'm not going to be, aggressively buying hourly oversold, assuming daily high or lows are going to form from it. It's just a data point that I'm going to be observing to help me gauge probabilities from here. Zooming in, as far as what I care about today, I care about this NASDAQ hourly range. We have the high of the bull push to end last week on the holiday, half-day Friday. We've got the low of the overnight fear. We've got our bounce high, and now a potential equilibrium. So I'm watching as the bell rings. How does this tightening range break? Do we tighten up through the morning and midday? Do the bears prove it and confirm the hourly downtrend by breaking the overnight low? And that overnight low is at midnight, so it's not going to be on the QQQ chart. So you got to be using the futures chart to get all that information. If that breaks bear, we're then going to be looking at hourly oversold, and we'll see the response to it, and it will align fairly close. No, we'll have to break the low of Thursday. Nope, the low of Wednesday if we're going to get to hourly oversold. But one thing at a time. I care about the sideways range. If it holds, bulls are just fine, and it's extremely healthy consolidation. If it breaks, we look to hourly oversold. As we know, the S&P 500 has been stronger overall. Again, same thing. Would I look at this chart on the daily and say, oh, there's bad news? No, not at all. So hourly, tightening range. What's the direction this is going to break? We got hourly EMA 12 acting as resistance this morning pre-market. If we break support, we look to hourly oversold. Bulls would love to hold a back test of these EMAs for the daily higher low to try and be a bull flag. But again, daily consolidation underway. I was hoping, we ended last week strong. I was hoping for a gap up open to look short. That would have been a very high probability short, in my opinion. I would have been, looking for a meta short on the morning and a NASDAQ short. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. Pullback started right when futures opened. But again, that just reminds me I was going to be looking short anyway. It's normal that we are pulling back right now. So all that said, that's just me dismissing the fear headlines to a certain degree to ensure that my focus remains on what's most important, which is the chart in front of us. All right, dollar weakness coming down and testing this key support level. So we have a very clear resistance zone in the low 100s. Now we have a very clear support zone trying to hold, but the metal bulls are liking this dollar weakness. And that's one place. There's a couple of places, we'll look at individual names in just a moment, but one of the major distinguishing factors of individual names of this morning is going to be names that break the low of Friday and names that don't. We've got a bunch of names potentially gapping down right now. NVDA, Tesla, etc. are shaping up for a potential gap down. And there's a bunch of names that are not shaping up for a gap down at the moment. Amazon, Meta, Apple, Quantum. So as the morning wears on, that's going to be a distinguishing factor in the short term. Who's breaking the low of Friday? Who's still holding it? And there are certainly names out there that still have some strength. For example, like INTC had a monster volume bull day on the half-day holiday. So what's the most likely scenario for INTC? An hourly high or low. So if I want to look long, there are plays to be looking at, like INTC, with anything above the low of Friday as an hourly high or low. Definitely a strong name, off weekly EMA 12, trying to head back to year-plus highs. And of course, miners, we'll get to them in just a moment. But first, gold. Gold 2-day equilibrium, broke bull. No real follow-through yet, but all I care about at this point is can bulls just maintain these higher lows and grind their way back to the all-time high. We know silver's getting all the attention for its relative strength. New all-time highs overnight. 4-hour. It's an hourly tightening range right now, similar to the NASDAQ, obviously occurring at a very different point. NASDAQ's occurring down here after a big drop, whereas silver's is occurring at the high. But if this tightening range breaks bull, it's a new all-time high. If this tightening range breaks bear, we'll be on the 4-hour, and we'll look for a 4-hour higher low to try and form as a result of that consolidation. So over the weekend, I spent a little time looking at miners. I was trying to identify silver miners that have not hit the higher highs yet, anticipating that, this silver euphoria is going to translate into scouting some laggard positions. A couple of the miners I'm watching, due to the proximity of all-time highs, WPM. So WPM, you can see that all-time high was hit earlier in September and October. And so we haven't broken that just yet. So I'm in no rush to buy these miners. Aggressive bulls are going to be looking for hourly higher lows. I'm going to be a bit more patient because I already have a lot of silver exposure. So I'm going to be looking for daily higher low entries on miners, potentially utilizing hourly oversold. These names will be, some of them will be hourly back burners if we get that eventually. PAAS is another one with that all-time high in play. Again, weekly chart, big breakout. But there's a number of them. And I need to hone down my list a little bit. My list is getting a little bit long, but CDE, of course, AG. But I'm just starring the ones closest to all-time highs. I'm not interested entering right now, but I will be watching for daily higher lows. Oil. So over the weekend in the video, I talked about how oil is looking for a monthly higher low, which means it's looking for a weekly trend change. So we're looking for a weekly higher low, which means we're looking for a daily trend change. And so I like how this is all the different major time frames and how they relate to each other. And so we'll be watching to see, can oil bulls confirm some kind of daily trend change, perhaps an inverse head and shoulders, to try and set that weekly high or low. But for now, it is still a daily downtrend where each bounce attempt is lower highs. Crypto had a lot of weakness over futures opening, in part because of the Japanese headlines, in part because China negative crypto headlines. In the end, this was just an oversold bounce. There was nothing special about it. It was very similar to this bounce. And I have a long position from 82, sell partial, break even, stop under 80. And I either stop out or make money. Break even or make money, which is how I like to be. But at this point in time, nothing really, it's obviously a big pullback in one day, but this is fairly, again, expected, just in the sense that bulls had not confirmed a daily uptrend. We just bounced 13% or whatever it was. And so now what I'm anticipating is the more likely scenario, unless the NASDAQ gets ugly, I'm going to be watching for the bulls to try and tighten up within this range for the majority of the week. But obviously bears have a lot of control. And there's a bunch of individual names today because of this lower open where hourly lower highs are going to be the most likely result of any bounce. So I can just go down the list of individual names. NVDA has been showing us relative weakness last week. There was some rotation into Google. But NVDA, the bell can ring and we can bounce 2.5% and still just look for an hourly lower high. So patient bears are going to be scouting hourly lower highs today. Aggressive bulls are going to be trying to play off of low of Friday supports for names that are holding it, or a name like INTC for an hourly high or low. I'm probably going to be in the patient bear camp, keeping an eye out for hourly lower highs. And a lot of my decisions recently for day trading are dictated by my positioning. And so that's why it's tricky to convey to other people. For example, if my IRA is long only or 90% long, and we've been going straight up. I'm just talking about the end of last week. We've been going straight up for 3 or 4 days off the lows. That influences the direction I'm looking on the day. I'm trying to position for a bear trade to get a little bit of protection or exposure to the other side. In situations that if I were completely flat and had no open positions and all cash, maybe I wouldn't be taking those same trades. So I always do my best to just specify that oftentimes it is my already open positions that dictate, and today's no different. I'm going to be patiently watching for hourly lower high short attempts because I have the long exposure side of things in my IRA covered. So that's where I stand as we head into the start of this week. But again, most individual names have space for hourly lower highs compared to the highs of Friday. Some of the other names that I'm watching, I'm going to be watching UNH for a daily inverse head and shoulders to try and shape up. We've been talking about this one for maybe a week at this point. So daily consolidation is going to be underway with a gap down. And we're going to look for a daily high or low. And I'm going to look for a spot where I can say that's the daily high or low, or I'm wrong. Maybe it takes a few days. And watch to see, can the bulls confirm a daily inverse head and shoulders to try and shape up the monthly high or low. Meta, not an inverse head and shoulders, but this is a daily oversold bounce. We haven't confirmed a daily trend change yet. So that's going to have to happen. I'm watching names like ALAB. I drew this to end last week. Are we going to reject a daily resistance and pull back and then break the falling wedge bullish for a monthly high or low? That's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. This is a newer name for me. NU, Blue Sky Bull. I'm watching for a back test and a hold of this resistance zone as support for a daily high or low. This is a Blue Sky Bull. Nice weekly EMA 12 runner. Nice tightening range before another leg up. Financial sector, financial services, I believe. But again, I've got a list next to my computer of all these names that I'm watching, and there's too many. So over this week, I'm going to hone it down, cross some off. But those are a few that I'm keeping an eye on. And again, none of them today. None of those names that I just mentioned, UNH, Meta, NU, ALAB, none of them are at a point where I'm looking for an entry today. If we start that daily consolidation today, maybe tomorrow is that point where I start scouting the potential daily high or low entry. But Again, no rush, just observing and seeing if the trade comes to me exactly as I want it. Because if NU doesn't come back and back test this zone, then I probably won't take any trades on it. That's what I need to see to get me interested. All right, going to take some ticker requests here from Chart Guys members. 15 minutes into the open. And we still got these hourly tightening range. Nice. Hourly higher low set. So nice and clear equilibrium. This is going to break very likely at some point today. It's just a question of, does it break in the first hour, or do we tighten up into midday, early afternoon? And we're going to know after the first hour. But bears are going to be trying to top fish and look for this lower high off of resistance. And bulls now have a little base of support, which is going to be key in the short term. IONQ, so quantum. Quantum is another spot where there's a bunch of potential daily inverse head and shoulders. But it's also, IONQ is also one of the names holding the low of Friday. So again, after the first 30 minutes of trading, 15 minutes of trading, whatever it is, we're going to be able to list 5 major names breaking the low of Friday. A few major names probably still holding the low of Friday to distinguish who's stronger and who's weaker. But IONQ, clear daily resistance, 50.68. We are pulling back with the weakness, but anything over the low of Friday is an hourly higher low. Not as strong as INTC on its daily chart, but a similar hourly move up on Friday that gives the space for the hourly higher low attempt. So the other names are weaker. QBTS, gap down, trying to. RGTI, gap down. So RGTI and QBTS, daily lower highs, are more convincingly being set. And so we'll see if IONQ follows along. But into later this week, we're going to be watching, do we just continue the downtrend, or is this an inverse head and shoulders where bulls shift momentum into a weekly bounce? And whether or not the NASDAQ keeps healthy daily consolidation, or whether bears follow through with high volume is going to dictate how names like this quantum sector, how they shape up. So it's all going to go back to the NASDAQ, but definitely going to be watching UNH and these quantum names for inverse head and shoulders setups. CME. Are we gapping down? So any individual name I'm looking at, the first thing I want to know is, are we gapping down? And there's not any kind of real volume pre-market to get an answer on CME, but let's just assume we break that low Friday. I would just be viewing this as an equilibrium. High, low, lower high, and we will be scouting a higher low compared to where we came from and to tighten up on this daily chart. It was an initial nice back test and hold of this resistance zone as support, but there's still a very clear, bigger picture resistance zone. So daily equilibrium on watch. Tesla, one of the gap down names. So daily consolidation underway. Anything above 383.76 is a daily higher low. And so again, if Tesla's going to be a monthly cup and handle, which is still a possibility, we know, for me, it's always the individual names that are significantly impacted by the NASDAQ. We got to always frame things within the context of the NASDAQ. All right, if Tesla's going to be a monthly cup and handle, we either need big time Tesla news that surprises the market, or the NASDAQ back at all-time highs. Because Tesla's not going to break out to all-time highs without the NASDAQ getting there as well, as the most likely scenario. So Tesla needs to form a daily higher low and confirm a daily uptrend. And the NASDAQ needs to be doing that same thing as well if we're going to continue to progress with trying to shape up that monthly higher low. Looks like there's a little gap. Nope, no gap. My line was just blocking it. But again, it's going to be retracement size. Bulls want to see less than 50% retracement. Don't give back too much of that bounce. What's the response to first hourly oversold conditions when we get there? Tesla, any bounce, anything under the 432s will just be an hourly lower high. And that's a big check mark that the bears are going to need. Okay, daily consolidation underway in many places. Bears must confirm hourly downtrends to follow through with that. So what does that look like? That looks like a Tesla bounce, failing the high of Friday, breaking to lower lows, confirming the hourly downtrend, heading towards hourly oversold. That's the check mark the bears want to see. And again, in the context of the NASDAQ, that would be this equilibrium breaking bear. So I'm in no rush to scout daily higher lows. Ideally, I'd like to see, 2 days of pullback and then a daily higher low if it's going to stay healthy for the bulls. TXG. Trying to keep a daily bull flag alive. Are we gapping down? Not enough volume to know, but that low of Friday is going to be in play first thing. If 1843 breaks, I'm looking at 1812, and then daily EMA 12 will be in play, which held the last couple of tests. Definitely got to be watching for weekly consolidation. I assume the biotech sector, I don't know this ticker, but I assume the biotech sector is going to be a factor here. XBI is just starting daily consolidation with the gap down. So bulls want to ensure that that consolidation remains healthy. But I would consider this all the same consolidation for TXG, scouting a daily higher low, which is not being set yet. CIFR. So daily stair-step bounce, just like the NASDAQ. Gapping down potentially here, so have to confirm the daily uptrend, which we have not done yet. Can the bears confirm an hourly downtrend as the result of the next bounce? What's the response to hourly oversold? How much retracement do we see before setting a daily higher low? Can bulls confirm the daily trend change? I mean, there's the chart like this, and there are a bunch of them. Two things happen. We either confirm the daily uptrend, and we're talking about all-time highs, or we retrace 50% plus, and that's a potential weekly lower high very quickly being set. So what this consolidation looks like is going to be very important for the market this week. Generally speaking, I look at this name and a tightening range, because this range is so wide, that's almost a 50% drop. Because that range is so wide, I expect to tighten up within it for a while. I mean, just go to the 2-day time frame here, and I'd be watching for something like that. So the shift underway into daily consolidation, and we'll see how much retracement we get. LAC. So LAC, weekly bounce is underway. A little bit of relative strength compared to other rare earth names. Another name like INTC, where there's space for the hourly high or low above the low of Friday because of the size of the bull move on Friday. And so on a day like this, bulls are just hoping for a daily inside bar. Don't start daily consolidation just yet. Try and keep the hourly uptrend. And so resistance is going to be 563, and support's going to be the low of Friday, 525. In an ideal world, the bulls hold the low of pre-market to keep full control of this chart. If we were to lose it, then that low of Friday comes into play. CRCL, so double bottom at the all-time low. And you could consider this a little dinky uptrend if you want. Considering the bears have full control, that's not enough of a pivot for me to call that a confident daily uptrend. For me, it's still all the same bounce. So anything above the low of Friday is an hourly higher low. It's another name where bulls just want an inside bar. And so we watch the high and the low of Friday as our key levels. Bears want to see if we hold the low of Friday. They want to fail the high and then confirm an hourly downtrend. Bulls obviously hope to just form an hourly higher low and keep the uptrend going. I'm surprised it's holding up this well considering how weak crypto is. But again, if you want to smooth out that dinky pivot, pull up the 2-day chart. This is just an oversold bounce at this point. The bulls have tons of proving. Honestly, I'd like to see a break of 64 with zero follow through, and then have this be a name that I watch for potential relief once tax loss harvesting is done towards the end of the month. So I'm in observation mode. A very clear double bottom, but not a convincing daily uptrend yet as far as I'm concerned. Google. So again, still watching to see if Google gets to hourly oversold. Trying to gap down, double bottom to the penny on Wednesday and Friday. And so if that breaks, further daily consolidation. Next support is 309.60. We're aware there's a gap down there. In this moment, hourly oversold would be roughly in the 311s. So we would need to drop another 1.5% plus to get there. So daily higher low is the most likely scenario for me on Google. I'm viewing this all as the same move up and the same period of consolidation still. And so this is definitely a name I'm watching for a potential long entry for the daily higher low. But again, being a bit patient and ideally getting to hourly oversold. And again, another name where, well, this one actually has a resistance nearby. We could say anything under 320.18 is an hourly lower high, keeping bears in short-term control. Many names don't have that hourly lower high from Friday afternoon. RKT. Gap down, open. Straight up, daily consolidation underway. Tons of space for a daily higher low to be the result of the pullback. Watching hourly oversold, which isn't far away. We would need to drop down to 19 or so. But again, that's ideal scenario for the bulls, low 19s. Ideal scenario for the bulls would be hourly oversold, marking that daily higher low. But for now, it's an inside bar bear break into daily consolidation. And bears do still, actually they have an hourly downtrend. That's a lower high and lower low. One of the more convincing gap downs shaping up. NOW. Another name, low of Friday, is going to be in play first thing. This is definitely a weaker name in the sense that it's a clear daily downtrend. That weakness on Wednesday stood out. Most names were green on Wednesday. So if 805 breaks, which it looks like it will, we're then looking at 799.84 and 795 as the only nearby supports. But this is a chart that the bears are very comfortable. We are in a weekly, daily, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly downtrend. So we just have to keep that in mind. And a bigger picture, you can be looking for a higher low compared to 678. I'm okay with that. But just be aware that there aren't many names that are weaker than this just this past week. And so we're going to be testing support first thing. And if 795 breaks, we're then looking down at a gap fill 776. And as long as we just keep forming these little dinky lower highs, bear flags on the daily bounces, the bears remain comfortable. So key short-term support test first thing for now. RIVN. So another name with a big time bounce this past week. Bulls are hoping to hold the low of Friday. So that's going to be a key short-term level of 1626. If it holds, bears are going to hope to confirm an hourly downtrend to start daily consolidation. Bulls just want the daily inside bar. But there's a ton of space for a daily higher low to be the result of this pullback. Weekly EMA 12 held. It was the highest weekly close in months, highest monthly close maybe of the year. But need to confirm an uptrend. We're coming straight off the low of consolidation. Just like the NASDAQ, we have to confirm the uptrend to have confidence in any follow through. Checking back in on the NASDAQ into the open. I'll get some more ticker requests as we go. It's just your standard hourly equilibrium. Amazon relative strength first thing. Again, Black Friday numbers probably helping. Walmart hit an all-time high in pre-market. So I can easily see Amazon relative strength first thing. How? Because I can look at the percentage red that all its peers are. It's down 0.2, Meta's down 0.7, Microsoft 0.9, etc. So right now, Apple and Amazon are holding up better than most big NASDAQ names. Tesla's got a decent bounce going as well. But again, we just got to remind ourselves on something like Tesla, anything under the high of Friday is an hourly lower high. Google's holding up pretty well. Actually, Google, that was an impressive. We probably spiked right before the open on Google to ensure that support held. That double bottom holding to the penny is still holding at the moment, 316.79. Healthcare sector holding up the best out of the major sectors. Amazon green continuing to stand out a bit. NVDA is staying a lead bear, as is Bitcoin. So low of pre-market's going to be a key support on QQQ and the low of overnight on the futures chart. We are seeing some profit taking in the metal miners on their gap up open. One of the other things I'm watching is as the NASDAQ's at the low of the day here, are other major sectors joining it or are they going inverse? And at the moment, financials and healthcare are not at the low of the day. So if you're a bigger picture bull, any semiconductor and NASDAQ weakness, you want to see those other sectors holding well. Let's check in on Amazon resistance with that relative strength. Already broke the high of Friday. One of the hypotheses was watching for Amazon divided by QQQ to try and see some rotation. So off to a good start on the week. We'll see how long bulls can keep that control. But we're also not going to forget, same thing here. We have to confirm a daily uptrend eventually. We're coming straight off the low. ICE, I'm going to keep working through some requests. Daily consolidation underway. I would call anything above 150, 113 a daily high or low. Still a weekly downtrend. This is going to be a bigger picture inverse head and shoulders attempt. 2-day time frame to smooth it out a bit. But I'm watching this. So daily uptrend's our guide. If we lose the daily uptrend, weekly lower high is set. And it's up to the bulls to regain the weekly uptrend after this big time drop. Same thing as everybody else, though. We'll watch the response to hourly oversold. Can it help set the daily high or low to keep control? RIVN joining Team Green. That's an impressive start. Key resistance 1706 in play. Tesla with one of the more impressive bounces. Anything that's bouncing needs to confirm some uptrends in their favor. 5 minute, etc. XLV is back in the green. So healthcare is still holding just fine overall. No red flags on healthcare daily consolidation at the moment. RIVN broke that high of Friday by a few pennies. Not many names out there breaking highs of Friday. Tesla joining Team Green, attempting. It's definitely standing out to me that two of the three strongest, aside from silver, two of the three strongest names on my screen are Tesla and RIVN in the first 7 minutes of trading. Now I'm curious what LCID and other peers are doing. Weaker. Tesla's key resistance zone is a little double top from Friday in the 432s. Very impressive morning. Let's check back in on the NASDAQ hourly tightening range as resistance is coming into play. Still a bit of a ways. Pretty much aligns with QQQ 616 that would need to break for an hourly bull break there. Checking in on a couple of these silver miners. So clearly pulling back. We'll see if that's the start of daily consolidation. They do have relative weakness to silver itself. Aggressive bulls are watching for hourly higher lows, but I'm not going to be an aggressive bull on those names. Meta and Microsoft staying a bit weaker, not really benefiting from the NASDAQ bounce to start the day. ORCL. So that's another one where, again, you look at this chart, just put on your bear glasses, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. As long as 210 is resistance now. So we just broke the low of Friday. And if anything's going to shift here, we got to hold 185.63 and break 210. Otherwise, the daily downtrend continues. Weekly stair step. So bear's still in full control at this point. I'm probably just going to stick to daily EMA 12 rider guide where If daily EMA12 is resistance, bears have full control, nothing changes, just to keep it as simple as possible. So bears are hoping that some hourly lower highs are shaping up, but NASDAQ needs a new low of the day. Tesla already a quick $4 pullback from that, just under that resistance zone. Google did roll over and break that double bottom. So further daily consolidation. XLF is at the high of the day, as is XLV. So there is a bit of inverse action between the major sectors at the moment. NASDAQ new low. So weakest major tech names, Google, Microsoft, Meta, NVDA is actually holding up pretty well. So I'm staying zoomed out a bit as far as what I care about on the NASDAQ. It's just that hourly. How is that hourly equilibrium going to break? And just reminding myself the short-term time frames can get choppy while we're within that equilibrium. Going to compare QQQ and SMH. So SMH no new low of the day yet. And NVDA going inverse to QQQ a bit. And in my opinion, that's just the inverse relationship between Google and NVDA taking over. Still pretty strong there. That inverse relationship will fade eventually. But it's nice and clear the last week or so. So again, all these individual names. Tesla, is that an hourly lower high being set? Potentially. Depends on if the NASDAQ bears are able to break that low. Other names. Meta, just a quick hourly lower high with the morning spike up. Miner's getting pretty ugly. Aggressive bulls are watching short-term stair steps for some oversold bounces. TEAM. Impressive start to the day. Opened right near the low of Friday and then broke the high. No follow through. So again, a chart like this, bulls want to confirm a 5-minute uptrend if they're going to affirm their control on the morning. You don't want to do what Tesla did, straight up and then give the majority of it back. As far as bigger picture, next resistance, 150, 170. Still a fairly weak daily bounce overall. And again, we have to confirm the daily trend change for things to shift, but clear relative strength on the morning. LLY definitely looking for a daily higher low. It hit hourly oversold on Friday. And I wouldn't call OSCR a back burner because we are not in a daily uptrend. Again, back burners are when you are in as strong a trend as you can have. Monthly, weekly, daily, all aligned. And this is sideways range bound. BMNR, same as everybody else, got to confirm the daily trend change if things are going to shift. Bulls need a new high of the day. Certainly holding up better than Ethereum on the open. So we can say a little bit of relative strength there. BMNR divided by Ethereum. Clear relative strength on the morning. 3203 would be a gap to the upside. NASDAQ is choppy. High of the day, low of the day. Back to testing the high. What's standing out to me is that when QQQ drops, XLF and XLV hold well. When QQQ is bouncing, they're not pulling back much. So I would call that a bit of an inverse correlation that favors bulls. Again, with just the backdrop of the yen, just the fear that I saw on Twitter over the last 12 hours, as I'm looking at the major sectors right now, granted, we've got 18 minutes of information, there's just no red flags. Give me a QQQ, give me a NASDAQ hourly equilibrium bear break and an XLF new low of the day, and I'll change my tune. But XLF's trying to go green here. RIVN back to the high of the day. Much better recovery than Tesla. We're going to have to watch the NASDAQ for a megaphone with how it's trading here. Whenever I see a fake out in each direction, I start scouting the megaphone. So bull break, no follow through. Bear break, no follow through. Choppy short term within a bigger picture equilibrium. Those miners got their bounce going pretty good here. GDXJ. Got to keep in mind that those short-term RSI levels are no longer oversold. So if you are playing that bounce, definitely want to be trimming a bit into that just in case daily consolidation is shaping up. Be nice if GDXJ gave us a bull flag right under that resistance zone. NVDA green. Impressive. Clearly it's the bull today and Google's the bear out of the two. RIVN, next resistance. Still 5-minute stair step there. 1771 is a double top. ALAB, very clear relative strength. So very simple statement here is semiconductors are showing us relative strength, NVDA, etc. If SMH isn't going to break the low of Friday, NASDAQ bears aren't going anywhere. We just held the low of Friday by 35 cents. Because of how the holdings are in the NASDAQ these days and the importance of the semiconductor sector over the last few years, if bears are going anywhere, you definitely need semiconductors on board for that. AVGO is a lead bear on the day. Hourly just got right down towards oversold. Didn't officially hit it. Missed by like 1 RSI point. Miners on the verge of going green. That's almost a 2% bounce. XLF back to flat. So NASDAQ is approaching that hourly lower high from pre-market. Google right now is back testing that previous double bottom. This is a key short-term resistance test. Getting over it now. So nice bounce on QQQ. We do still need to confirm a 5-minute uptrend eventually. We are testing that resistance right now. XLF and QQQ at the high of the day together. XLV is in the middle of its range. All things considered, bulls are pleased with how the morning has started. So we got that bull break now. NASDAQ, hourly. Uptrend confirmed. Let's zoom out to the 4-hour. So if bears are going to prove anything, it would have to be a 4-hour downtrend confirming. But that's a solid defense by the bulls. Again, still need that 5-minute uptrend. There were a number of times during our last period of broader market consolidation 2 weeks ago where we would see a nice big 5-minute bull move straight up and then give it all back because we didn't build any supports on the way. So bulls definitely do still want 5-minute uptrends to confirm, but lead bulls like RIVN continuing to just chug along, probably riding 1-minute EMA 12 there. So when we lose 1-minute EMA 12, we'll zoom out and scout a 5-minute higher low. This is a candidate for a later morning trade strategy, which is when you scout a 15-minute higher low after bulls prove themselves all morning. But I'm impressed by those bulls. Also some setups here for 5-minute equilibriums. Google, anything under the high of the day would be a 5-minute lower high. So we'll see if we set up a tightening range. Tesla, same thing. If we can't break the high of the day, we got a 5-minute equilibrium potentially shaping up. Silver almost back to the high of the day from regular trading hours. BMNR already has a little 5-minute equilibrium. I'm going to check in on rare earth. MP started with weakness. So tightening daily range. Quantum bulls are hoping QBTS and RGTI can form quick little daily higher lows here. IONQ still battling and holding the low of Friday by a few pennies, fending off that daily consolidation. Broader market bears have work to do because this isn't scary. The headlines are way scarier than the price action. Checking on UNH. Bulls filled the gap after the gap down open. Meta with significant recovery after early weakness. Back to the high of the day. Bitcoin's still weak. Not really doing anything since the open. The buying in some of these crypto stocks has been much weaker, much stronger than the actual crypto themselves. So what we're going to be watching on QQQ right now is exactly what we're watching on the daily time frame. 5 minute, nice big bounce. Can the consolidation retracement remain healthy? Can we confirm the 5 minute uptrend to keep bull confidence? Do we give back more than half the bounce, which then calls control into question on the morning? It's exactly what we're watching for on the daily. Tesla 5 minute lower highs set. So tightening up. Now we watch for a higher low compared to 425.85. XLV low of the day, XBI low of the day. So that's clearly where the lead bears are at from a sector perspective. XBI was very due for daily consolidation. We are just getting to hourly oversold there. XLV not quite at hourly oversold yet. So QQQ 5-minute consolidation underway. And this is going to be pretty important in the next 10, 15 minutes. Bitcoin is still at the low. NVDA high a day test. Got it. This 5-minute stair step bounce for GDXJ. Silver's testing key resistance, pretty much the only resistance it has. I'm going to be road tripping later this week down to Florida, so what I'm focused on is, do I need to do any adjusting in my IRA swing positions? And so far, the answer is no. QQQ high of the day test, trying to confirm a little 5-minute bull flag. Same with SMH. SMH clearly morning lead bull sector, while XLV is lead bear sector. NVDA high of Friday coming into play. 179.29 being tested. Don't forget Tesla has some stubborn 432's resistance right behind the high of today, which is also coming back into play. Let's check in on RIVN volume. Definitely a very high volume morning. Just looking back, I can see it's the highest first 30 minutes of volume in at least a week. And we had a 5-minute morning volume surge signal there, with the second candle having higher volume than the first. 1771. NASDAQ failing the high of the day. So I said the next 10, 15 minutes are so important because with XLV at the low of the day, XLF has now almost given back half of its morning move. It puts a little bit more pressure on the NASDAQ and semiconductors to keep the bull control here. Tesla high of day test. MDB. Significant bounce. It's doing the same thing as the NASDAQ as far as trying to form the 5-minute higher low. Need to confirm that uptrend to keep those morning gains. Looks like we have earnings after hours today. And so it's looking like earnings are going to dictate whether we change this daily trend to an uptrend and set the weekly higher low. But definitely some solid dip buying so far on the morning. And it's similar to CRWV. CRWV, very similar 5-minute significant dip buying. But if bulls are going to prove something on this daily chart, we got to get over 76.60. Right now we're chopping around sideways. So Tesla's now battling the double top at the high of Friday, 432.39 and 93. The NASDAQ is still battling the high of the day. The bears doing everything they can to try and reject it. Nice recovery for Tesla. 5-minute tightening range, broke bull. And new bounce highs on the daily. Next level looking up 442s. QQQ new high of the day, so that now gives us a key short-term support. The simple statement is bulls have full control of 615.50 is support. I'm going to do a little SPY top fish just in case I need some protection. So for that, just grabbing SPXS. And if SPY hits a new high of the day, I'll stop out that position with a small loss. And that's essentially me saying if we're going to shape up an hourly lower high versus high of Friday, I want to protect against that a bit. IONQ weakened significantly comparative to the NASDAQ. We're testing the low of the day. QBTS 5-minute equilibrium. RGTI staying a lead bear of the three. XLF, roughly 50% retracement, which is why I went a bit protective. Because if the NASDAQ breaks that 315.50 level, we are going to be in the scenario where we're giving back a lot of that morning move. Still battling for it. We just held it by 11 pennies. So in terms of lead bears, if we do weaken, if the NASDAQ does break that 615.50 level, quantum and crypto related things are standing out as the weakest. But that short-term level would have to break if bears are going to gain some confidence. Aggressive bulls are watching for an XBI bounce. It's getting pretty crushed. Similar to the similar to the junior miners on the morning with how the 5 and 15-minute RSI were crushed. We just hit an hourly super stack on XBI. QQQ, another short-term support test. IONQ at the low of the day. Bitcoin at the low of the day. XLF has now given back more like 70% of the morning bull move. So there's a path forward here for the bears. Amazon gave back its initial morning strength. SMH is going to have to break its short-term supports as well for the NASDAQ bears. Tightening up. Some SMH volatility is going to be coming here within the next 10 minutes. So I'll stop at a SPXS if SPY breaks something like 682.10, just a little bit over the high of the day. I'd be on the 15-minute time frame at this point for RIVN. 15-minute consolidation just started. We did hit a 4-hour super stack there, so pretty extended to the upside. Silver weakening a bit, rejected from its resistance. Key level for bulls on MDB. It's just the low of the day at this point. We just got a 5-minute stair step up and now a 5-minute stair step down. So the most likely scenario is a tightening 5-minute range. but we've got to establish a support level, which we didn't do on the way up. So all we have at this point is the high and the low. We know what's most likely, and we're watching the stair steps for the indication of when the higher low is set. QQQ got that short-term bear break. So now we can be on the 15-minute time frame there as well. Anything over the low of the day is a 15-minute higher low. And bears are hoping, again, that these are hourly lower highs shaping up compared to highs of Friday. And then if we break the low of pre-market, that's the hourly downtrend confirming on the ETFs. SMH is still not breaking. Got to see SMH break 350.45 if it's going to help the NASDAQ roll over. If 350.45 is holding on SMH, NASDAQ bears probably aren't going to get much follow through. The reason I grabbed that S&P 500 protection is, number one, lack of protection. Number two, hourly lower highs on the table. QQQ 5-minute bull flag confirmed with zero follow through, and the financial sector started to weaken a lot more than bulls wanted to see. The reason I went with SPXS rather than SQQQ is because SMH is our lead bull, helping the NASDAQ hold up a bit. So we'll see if the financial sector bears can hit a new low of the day. XLV still hanging out at the lows. But I care most about SMH at this point. Bitcoin back to the morning lows from pre-market. Just a clear hourly downtrend guide there. PFF. Another one of those inverse head and shoulders that has to shape up if things are going to shift. Got to confirm. Looks like the dividend distribution is a reason for the size of that gap down. But we've got to confirm the daily uptrend. We can still pull back for another day or two, but we got to confirm that daily uptrend if things are going to shift. And that would be the first baby step towards a monthly higher low. But at the moment, still technically a downtrend. XBI trying to get the 5-minute bounce underway. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up, but what we're watching here is SMH short-term support to see if the NASDAQ bears can follow through. We already have XLV and XLF at or near their lows. So talking about how that put a good bit of pressure on the NASDAQ bulls to maintain the control, which they're losing a bit. Ideal bear world is we confirm 5-minute downtrends and set hourly lower highs and break the lows of the day on SPY and QQQ. And to keep that daily consolidation going. I will be watching for daily higher lows in names like UNH and Meta eventually, but I'm going to be patient. Might take a couple days of consolidation. And I'm going to swing this SPXS position if the bears keep control from here. All right. Hope you have a good rest of your Monday. I'm going to be in the chat room shortly. 15-minute time frames for clarity in many names at this point in the morning. And the burden is still on semi-bears to break short-term support, which is still holding. See you soon.